Continuing with the formula of ionic compounds. There is a simple method to work out the formula of ionic compounds, and we call this method crisscross. So first of all, you need to know the ions that make up this ionic compound and find the charges of these ions. Once you find the charges of these ions, applying the crisscross method becomes very easy. Let's try solving some questions together. The first question, what's the formula of sodium oxide, which contains Na plus ions, sodium ions, and O2 minus ions, which are oxide ions? Take a couple of minutes and try to solve this alone. We can logically try to balance the charges, and we can also use the crisscross method. This is easier and faster. So basically, the charge of Na plus and the charge of O2 minus are swapped to become the number of ions. This one of the sodium ion, representing only 1 plus, goes to the lower right corner of oxide ion, and the charge of oxide, or the number that represents the charge of oxide, which is 2 here, goes to the lower right corner of the sodium ion. We can read this now, Na2O1. O1 means only an O, one oxide ion. And Na2 means that we have 2 Na or sodium ions in this ionic compound. So the correct answer would be Na2O. This means that in sodium oxide there are 2 Na plus ions and 1 oxide ion to balance the charges. Let's move to the second question. What is the formula of aluminum bromide? Aluminum bromide contains Al3 plus and Br minus ions. Just like the first question, try solving this one using the crisscross method and then continue watching this video to see if you have the correct answer. So let's solve this together and try to find the correct answer. If you want to apply the crisscross method to the 2 ions, the 3 becomes the number of the Br minus ions, so we have AlBr3. That means that aluminum bromide contains 1 aluminum ion and 3 bromide ions, so that the charge of the compound would be 0. And that's the golden rule that we talked about. As for aluminum oxide, Al3 plus and O2 minus ions make up aluminum oxide. What's the number of aluminum ions and what's the number of oxide ions in this compound? So we have the charges, so applying the crisscross method would be the easiest way to find out the formula of the ionic compound. As you see here, the 3 from the charge of Al3 plus goes to the lower right corner of the oxide ion, and the 2 from the charge of the oxide ion goes to the lower right corner of the aluminum ion, and therefore if we read this we will get Al2O3, which means that we have 2 aluminum ions and 3 oxide ions in order to balance the charge and so that the total charge is 0. So this is the crisscross method, an easy method to figure out the formula of the ionic compound.